All right, excellent. All right, well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us for our second live Q&A for the Police Accountability Board. With us is our Executive Director, Connor Dwyer Reynolds. Say hi, Connor.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. We also have a special guest with us, Rena, who is Rena, what's your title for the people?
I am the Executive Staff Officer for PAB.
See, I was going to say staff officer, and I would have left off the executive, and that would have been a disservice to you. So I apologize.
I appreciate
it. So we do have a list of questions from people. We're going to get to those. I do want to say again, this is our second live Q&A. If you aren't able to watch it live, we will be posting this on our YouTube, and we'll also be having snippets of it on our Twitter account, so you can check back to see if we answered any questions that you might have. And we are happy to hear from people as we get started or get ready to get started here at the PAB. So we're just going to jump right into it. The first few questions are going to be for Connor, and a lot of them have to do with what the PAB intends to do as we move forward. And so one of the questions I thought was really interesting was how the Police Accountability Board and how we plan on interrupting violence within our communities. And, as we know, there's been several shootings lately, and crime is up not only in Rochester, but in the country as a result of the pandemic and some other issues. So how do you see the PAB interrupting that violence within the communities?
The best thing we can do is make sure that the police are doing what they need to do around violence interruption. The police department in Rochester is tasked with keeping our communities safe. We've seen lots of heroic action from police officers over the last, years in Rochester. What we need to be making sure of is the police department as a whole making the right policy decisions around how to deploy its officers? How does the city address mental health calls with the police? These are questions that PAB can help the police department and help the city answer in a community-driven, evidence-based way. So when PAB is up and running, we're going to help the police department do that work of reducing violence and help the city create this, build a broader system of effective violence interruption. Mayor Evans, making this $5 million investment in violence prevention is a remarkable first step. I know we've got an amazing group of the violence czar, the gun czar, that he's appointed. We've got amazing community leaders like Anthony Hall on the streets doing this work for the city. It's just a matter of PAB playing its part in holding the police accountable.
All right. And then so we talk a lot about what misconduct is at the PAB and what that would look like in some of these communities as well, because it's not always, police being violent towards the people that they are policing. Sometimes it looks a little different. And so can you explain kind of what that would look like to people in these communities as well?
Sure. So the two biggest things that PAB hears about police performance are police officers need to stop hurting us in inappropriate uses of force, violence, et cetera. But also, when we call the police, we need them to show up and do their jobs. Right. So people often think that misconduct is just doing bad things, hurting people. Misconduct is also not doing your job of protecting people appropriately. Right. Again, we've got a lot of great officers doing the right thing. And the question is, for example, when someone shows up to a domestic violence call, when an officer shows up to a domestic violence call, are they doing all the right things to help the victim? To make sure that people are protected? Are they believing women when they come to the police with allegations of sexual assault and violence? These are some of the things that misconduct can be. It's also things like lying, making false statements, improper supervision of other officers is misconduct. And of course, not being respectful to the public, or harassing people who are videotaping. These are many different kinds of misconduct. And what I really want people to think is, if you see anything that doesn't seem right, give PAB a call. You don't have to be sure. Give us a call. We'll figure it out.
Excellent. And so we talked too about educating the community not only about what misconduct is, but what their rights are when it comes to policing in their communities, especially communities where there are high crime. So can you explain a little bit about the importance of knowing your rights as a citizen and how that can help with the PAB and just help the community in general?
PAB's theory of change is if we educate and empower our community members to know what their policing system is doing, what it should be doing, what it can do, it's going to be not just the people that work at PAB, but people across our community that put pressure on the system to change. So knowing your rights, knowing what officers can and cannot do, how they're supposed to do their jobs, what they are actually doing in their jobs, that might be the most important part of our work.
And so another question that we got in has to do with policy. And, we talk about how the PAB is going to have influence or review of policies. And it looks like the question is, what does the PAB plan to do about the input on the RPD protest policies and specifically not being involved in those policies coming out?
Yes. So what I will say on that is that the community will be hearing from PAB about that in a couple of days. We are going to be meeting with the police chief on Thursday. We're going to be discussing these issues, and I'm sure that we're going to send out some information to the community later that day.
And will the PAB be participating in selecting the new RPD chief? This is one that we kind of get pretty often on social media, especially, and a lot of people obviously are interested in the role of the RPD chief. It's a very important one, especially as we look to make these changes. So what role will the PAB be playing in selecting the RPD chief, if any?
The board reached out and formally asked the mayor to be included in the selection process. The mayor's own consultant told the mayor that he would be recommending that PAB be involved in that process. And I know that as far as we know, the actual selection committee has not been selected yet, but we hope and expect that the mayor will appoint at least one PAB member, board member to that panel.
All right. So the next question is about police residency. So pushing for police city residency would be great. Larger employee city homeowner grants could also help. So that's a suggestion from this person suggesting that this might be something to increase city living for police officers. And the question is, one of the questions is there a city residency requirement for the Police Accountability Board? And is there a city requirement for police?
Great questions. So Police Accountability Board members, those are the 9 volunteers who oversee the agency. Volunteer committee members, they have to not only live in the city, but have lived in the city for at least a year in order to serve on the board. For PAB staff like me, like Rena, like Vanessa, within 1 year of your hire date, you have to move to the city. So not everyone at PAB is currently in the city, but you got to be here pretty soon after we hire. 95% do not. Only 1 in 20 police officers lives in the city.
Wow. And so the next part of this person's question, which I think is extremely interesting, is how many board members live in the lowest income parts of Rochester zip codes, and how many police officers live in those zip codes as well. And I'm not sure if we have that information, but I do think it's an interesting question to pose.
That's a great question. We've actually had some turnover in the board in the last 2 months, and so I can't tell you what those numbers are. I do know that we have a number of board members who live in some of the lowest zip code areas, lowest income zip code areas. What I can say about officers, we don't know those statistics. I would love to get all these numbers, but what we do know is 95% of police officers don't live in the city, and disproportionately incomes outside of the city are much higher than those. Those outside the city are higher than those inside the city. So, you can make a decent inference that police accountability board members likely live in lower income brackets than police officers, at least in terms of region.
And so to kind of pull on that question a little bit, I know it's probably, easy to assume, or maybe some people assume, there's no difference. It doesn't matter if somebody lives outside of the zip code and comes in, or outside of the city and comes in to police the city. But what, in your opinion, what are the effects of having somebody come from outside in to police in the city?
It is seeing people as humans. Rochester is, when you often live out in the suburbs, particularly as a white person, when you think about Rochester through the lens of TV news or coming out on the weekends, you can think of things. It's a crime-infested city. It's a war zone. It's it's a dangerous place. It's just poverty. And if you live here, all that's not true, right? Yes. Does this city have some violence problems? Yes. Yes. Does this city have some real challenges with poverty? We've got geniuses coming out of Rochester School District. We've got beautiful neighborhoods all around the city in every zip code. We've got amazing restaurants, not just downtown in the heart where people come in from the suburbs, but in every single street across the city. It's a beautiful place. It's a place that has problems. And even the people who have problems are part of the beauty of the city. And if you don't live here, if you don't see that, it is so hard to know how to keep this community safe. You don't know what it means to be safe for this community as opposed to a different community, right? And you don't know what this community's real needs are. So I can't say how important it is to be from this place. And also, if you're defending your home, keeping your home safe, your neighbors, your friends, your family members, it causes you to approach problems differently, right? I'll just use Moses Robinson, one of my favorite RPD officers, as an example. Moses knows so many of the people that he interacts with. He can know a friend, a cousin, a neighbor. And because he has those connections from living in the city for decades, he can keep people safer. So it's not just a matter of living in the city. It's being from the city, being of the city, and reflecting the city. And one great hope of PAB is that we can help make our police department those things.
So you had mentioned the TV news and media in general at the start of that answer. And one question that we got is, what would the PAB be doing, if anything, to examine and reform the relationship between the police and the local media? And very specifically, they mentioned things like the news reporting things like mugshots or names of victims, or identifying information that can be traumatic to the people involved in crimes or situations, and that the content of media reports usually contain specific information from police and police alone. And so there is no alternative information provided or a clearer picture provided. It seems a little one-sided and biased. So again, what will the PAB be doing, if anything, to examine and reform that relationship between police and local media?
A great question. I will say, here's something PAB can do. I can't promise when it will happen, but PAB has a policy team that is focused on addressing things that are systemic issues in RPD. For example, RPD just asked City Council to buy 30 new police cars. And the police department, or excuse me, City Council has had a lot of questions about that. Today, we just asked the city council to let us know if they'd like us to do a systemic analysis and audit of RPD vehicles, right? This is the kind of thing we can do for anything, including media relations. But there's something I know we will do no matter what, and that is provide facts about public safety and police reform in our community. And that's why this and the work of Vanessa Cheeks, Michaela Cultura, and Natalie Banks is so important. Our public affairs team it's not just addressing the way that the police department communicates about crime and public safety. It's changing the way the city does, and we are part of the city, right? And so what we have to do as PAB is be a source of facts, data, and community values to the media, right? And Vanessa knows this more than anyone. Right now, the Rochester Police Department kind of has a monopoly on these issues, right? They are the official way to learn about crime, what's going on in the community regarding violence, et cetera. And PAB is an independent voice for what's going on in policing. And I can't say how important and powerful that will be in reforming the way our media understands our city.
I think that's absolutely accurate. As you said, working in a newsroom, oftentimes, especially in police involved situations, they're the only ones putting out information, and the news really just goes with the information that they get. And so it's a great opportunity to be able to offer additional information or supplemental or just another view of the incidents that happen. So once we're able to do that and we get up and running, that'd be fantastic. So this is, I don't want to say a hard question. It's not hard. It's kind of on the nose. Why aren't you up and running?
Great question. So I could tell you a laundry list of stories. I'll give you a few data points. PAB just moved into its new office space to fit all of its people. We identified that office space in September. We just moved in yesterday. It took 8 months. Okay. We selected a vendor for our case management system, the heart of our investigations, in September. The contract just got signed 2.5 weeks ago. We submitted our hiring plan to the city days before our budget was voted on in May. We just got it took 5 months for the city to put that out. This is not to say that there aren't a lot of great people in the city and around working to get us up. What it is saying is that the vision of PAB, this thing that can get the work done, it's part of city government. Delays are inevitable. And reality is that, the police department has gone through a lot of change over the last year. And I think that it's still going to take some time to get them fully cooperative. And I'm looking forward to building that relationship with Chief Smith. But all that is to the side, because what I will say is that in the coming days, you're going to be seeing a lot of PAB. And I'm talking about next week. You're going to be seeing a lot of PAB out in the community, getting to work. And the long wait will be over very, very soon. So I'm very, very excited. I don't want to spoil anything, but the team has been so hardworking here, and being able to finally move into the office space has gotten us to a place we are just about there. So get ready.
Yeah, no spoilers, Connor. Don't ruin it. Still have press releases to write. All right. So for these next few questions, our last few questions, I want to bring in Marina. A lot of them have to do with our staff and also the training. We got a lot of questions on social media, especially as we started talking about the training that we were undergoing and the impact that has had on staff and kind of what it included. And so her opinion in this is invaluable because she was there every day, right at 9 a.m. I was late often, so I appreciate it. So
note, I also took a lot of notes.
Oh, you really did. You were like the best student ever. Some of us were kind of eating donuts and making sure we were watching the videos, and you were going above and beyond. So I just wanted to kind of go back to, this opening and up and running question. Obviously, you work with a lot of the staff. You're helping Connor get set up and helping just our general office get set up. So what challenges have you seen, just kind of getting things started and underway?
I think one of the biggest challenges that we are reflecting, especially physically in our office space, is a little bit of building services hiccups that we're having, a little bit of IT hiccups that contribute. We've got, folks in there who are working off their laptops. Currently, we're having an issue with getting city network in our building. So we are actually operating off of Gannett's guest Wi-Fi, which is not always stable. So it prevents some challenges. But I think the heart of what we're doing here is we're still working, and we've got people in now, and it's definitely becoming our home, and we're definitely working towards becoming a really great team. I see it all the time, and it makes me so happy.
And it's a little ragtag right now, but we're making it work.
A little ragtag, but we're not going for perfection right now. We just are going. We'll achieve perfection soon.
Yes. All right. And so this next one is for Rena and Connor. We have a question of why do we need so much space? We keep getting this question. It's like, and I get it. But our staff has grown. So, but if you guys could elaborate on that, and maybe Rena, what is the best use?
Am I frozen? Can you see me?
Oh, you were. There you are. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm back, everyone. Yeah, we need space for internet bandwidth, apparently. So I'll just start and say you need space to fit our people. So we have just enough desks in our office space to fit our team. Now, not all our team is currently in the office, but when we're up and running, we got to have 70 seats. That's for board members and staff and part-time people, all that. In addition to just having people have seats, we have to have interview rooms where people can come in, where they have to be large enough to fit a lot of people. We have to have a bunch of those interview rooms. We have to have secure conference rooms, meeting rooms, evidence storage rooms. We aren't just a place for, taking in pieces of paper and putting them somewhere. We have to collect evidence. We have to do digital forensic analysis. We have to do data crunching. We have to have places where volunteers can come in. We have to have places where the board can meet, and not just meet, but be open to the public. And all those spaces, this is the one space in the city where all those things could fit in. We were able to move in quickly. There was a lot of equipment and office furniture here. The place came with, I can't estimate exactly, but probably well over $100,000 of free equipment. Like really, like every desk, every chair, every table, it's here. So, and it's a very central, secure location. And so how much space we need, we're going to fill every inch of this place.
Yeah. Yeah, Connor, really, you hit everything as to why we really do need this space. And I think it is very important as well, particularly location-wise, that we operate from the heart of the city. We're here to serve, and it is a highly visible location, very accessible. The bus station's close by. I think it really ties into the heart of our work and the accessibility that we're trying to achieve to all of the citizens.
All right, so Rena, so to the training. We were talking about how we were in training for several weeks. What part of that training really stuck out to you?
Man, that's a rough question.
There was so much.
There was so much, and I enjoyed pretty much all of it. I don't have a lot of negative criticisms, honestly, and even my negative ones are tame. But I think that my favorite part, honestly, it might sound a little, messed up, but it was the trauma. It was the PTSD. It was learning about ACEs, which stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. I found so much value in that, not just for, the sake of the information, but the team building we experienced throughout it. I think that it was heavy for everybody. Like even, people who came late a little bit or weren't totally vested in it at first. I think by the end of it, everybody left having felt a shift. And that's very important to impactful trainings. So I would take it again and again if I had the time.
I agree. I know one thing that we were always discussing in class is like how it was things that we knew or thought we had a general understanding of. And I think part of that was, like you said, like trauma responses and how to deal with people who may have gone through trauma in their life, and how to interact with certain like subgroups and stuff like that. And but then after a while, once it started to get really deep into it, we started talking about things like the history of police accountability in Rochester, and we started talking about how to really just be in touch with our own emotions so that we can deal with the trauma that we will be experiencing on behalf of these other people. That's when it started to really, like you said, kind of hit home and really apply to begin to apply to the work that we plan on doing. So I thought it was extremely informative, and I know everybody really enjoyed it, because I don't think there was a day that went by that we weren't all like huddled up afterwards and talking about the content of the class. So
Yeah,
great.
Absolutely.
And so I guess it leads me into my next question is, how do you think that those topics will help inform the work of the PAB going forward?
Well, every topic that we had really does hit an area of our work. We started out covering the history of police reform in Rochester. We talked about our predecessors, the Criminal Review Board. We spoke about a lot of, previous incidents in the city that were so impactful. Rufus Farewell, Denise Hawkins, Benny War. We listened actually to victims. We had a victim impact panel, and we even listened to activists as well. So right there, like understanding where you came from is so crucial to understanding where you're going. So the history piece was not only interesting, but I think fundamental. I kind of broke things down into buckets. So we kind of moved on to police culture. We had someone come in and talk about their experiences as leadership in RPD. And we also heard from an officer who talked to us about trauma and first responders. And I think that was very impactful, particularly for me, because I think that there is a very much us versus them mentality right now between PAB and RPD. And the product of our training is that, we have to treat everyone with compassion. We aren't here to be adversarial. We are here to treat everyone well. And we understand that people are coming to us as they are. They have trauma, they have PTSD, that includes officers, and we need to be understanding and sensitive of that if we are going to truly serve this community. And then we also covered, culture. Culture was a big piece too, how to, the term was not cultural competency, it was cultural responsiveness. I think the joke that we had running was, you're never going to graduate culture school. So you can't really ever say like culturally competent is a misnomer. So the idea is to be understanding of different cultures and responsive to them, understanding of different marginalized communities and responsive to them and their needs as well. And it really all informs how we will go about our work in the future.
Yeah. And so this is a question for Rena and for Connor, but in the training and in general over the last few weeks, since we've been bringing on more staff and have started to solidify the people that will be working here, what have you learned about the staff so far, and what has impressed you the most?
Can I speak while Rena thinks?
Yeah, you go first.
I can tell you're dying to say something, Connor. I can tell.
So there's so many things. So what I like about PAB is that the mission orientation of the people who are here. People came to PAB giving up really great careers, stable jobs, upward trajectory wherever they were, sacrificed whatever they were doing to get up, come to this city job in this brand new agency that's just growing. And the odds of our success are uncertain, right? We've never done something like this before in Rochester, even really the country. And people moved from all over. They moved back home. to do this. And it's a really hard, intense job. It's hard because everything's brand new and changing all the time. It's hard because it's really political and people want to sink their teeth into this thing. And it's really hard because policing is the most controversial topic you could imagine anywhere, period. And every single person who came to PAB knew that when they signed up, knew that they're going to stake their reputations, maybe even their, livelihoods or whatever on this. And they come into work every day and they're doing it. So what does that say about the people who come and work at PAB? It says that we've got the right people. And as a manager and a leader, having the right people is more important than having the right rule, than having the right policy, than having the right procedure. And that's why I think PAB's got a shot. Because the people you see on this call, the people you can't see on this call who are doing the operation stuff behind, because there are people. And that's what I love about my staff.
Rena.
Yeah. Man, when I look out at all our staff as we are, coming into this space and starting to fill it up, I see people who enjoy each other. And that is awesome to me. I feel like we are already building a great culture where we stick together, where we look out for each other, where we are able to understand some of the things that our coworkers are going through are going to be rough, and we're able to be there for them. And I think that's extremely important, like you said, especially in this controversial, highly politicized work. And, I had the opportunity to sit in on a variety of different interviews, sometimes, 2 or 3 times with the same person we had to interview, or, have them before the jobs committee. And I am so impressed all the time. So many of our interviews are so good. And I'm constantly impressed by the people that we've met so far in this process and the people we've gained in this process. And it makes me look forward to the future.
Well, the final question, and it's a very overall philosophical question, maybe, but why do both of you think we need a PAB?
Well, I definitely learned through the training with staff that there are people within this circle who have had interactions with the police that could have went so much better. And I think that, along with rooting out misconduct and, making sure there is accountability in those instances, we want to make things better. We want to improve the quality of these interactions. And if there is a way that we can, use data, research, understanding culture and policies in order to do that, that's the biggest goal of all. Everybody knows somebody. That's what we took away, is everybody knows somebody impacted by the violence. So we've got to do something about it.
Yeah, I'll say something very similar. I, like every person on this call and a lot of people watching, I've had friends and family members who are dead because of inappropriate police interactions, right? And people often talk about PAB's budget, $5 million. What's the value of one life? I don't know. I think it's a hell of a lot more than 5 million. And that's why we need a PAB, period.
Well, those are all the questions that we have gotten for this Q&A. We will be posting this, like I said, on YouTube for people to view if they were not able to watch it live. We'll also be offering snippets of it on our Twitter page as well. And we will be letting you guys know if we do schedule another one in the future. But as Connor teased, there will be some more information from the PAB coming out shortly. And we hope to be able to reach you guys again soon. Thank you.
And thank Vanessa and Michaela and Rena for doing all this work. You don't see it out there, folks, but this is not something they kick off the hour beforehand. They prep this thing, they run this thing, and so thank you to that team.
Thanks, Connor.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, folks. Have a